It's a free society. Except there ain't nothing free, because there's no guarantees, you know? You're on your own. It's a lot of jungle.
Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, a show where we learn something new every week, part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent, and this week is an interesting story about what would happen if there were a place without laws. Would it be a utopia, or would it just devolve into a real-life version of The Purge? Before we get into the story, a few announcements and requests. First of all, thank you for the reviews on Apple Podcasts, like the one from Blue-Eyed Tina, who said, "Great show, I always learn something, and love sharing the info with friends as random trivia." So thank you, Tina. That is exactly my intent every week. I want these stories to be things that stick in your brain, that you share with friends. There's a never-ending supply of weird stories that are fascinating, and I love sharing them with you. Please go over to Apple Podcasts app and leave a 5-star rating and a review, and I always notice those and see them and appreciate them. If you want to go the extra step and become a supporter of the show, you'll get a pack of stickers in the mail and access to the guest interview videos before I ever edit the curse words out of them. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. You can join at whatever financial level you want, even if that's just $1 a month. It's all appreciated. It's a simple way to show your support of this show. Finally, when we get to the ad break in a little bit, I challenge you to not skip the ads, but instead visit those websites, see if there's something you like. If not, no big deal, but if you do see something, make sure you use my promo code or link to let them know I sent you. I greatly appreciate that. Now, let's get on to this week's topic. It comes to us from Mike.
Hey Michael, it's Mike from Kokomo, Indiana. I was just reading about a place in Denmark called Christiania. It's part of Copenhagen, and apparently there are no laws. Can you do an episode about that? Thanks.
Thanks for that, Mike. This sounds really interesting, and I don't know anything about it. You know, I sort of just assumed that a lot of modern Scandinavian countries were sort of free like this anyway, but to have no laws, that's fascinating. Let's start by telling you about a play I was in when I was a kid.
I think the world would be better with no grown-ups. Yeah! We wouldn't have to brush our teeth. And we wouldn't have people smoking and drinking and driving. And there wouldn't be anyone to kidnap and hurt kids. And there wouldn't be so much garbage everywhere. And there'd be no one to get into fights. And we could go to bed anytime we wanted. Yeah!
In the second grade, we had some playwrights come in as artists in residence, and they helped us write our own play. And what we came up with was this story about a bunch of kids who wished for a world with no rules and no parents. And then, of course, they came upon a genie, and when they get what they ask for, they get cold and they eat too much candy and they miss their parents and they wish them back. It was sort of like Home Alone without all the good parts. So, from my experience in having constructed and performed in a school play as a 7-year-old, having a world without laws is bad. What we're talking about is known as anarchism. Anarchism is different than anarchy. Anarchy is the total rejection of laws and government, whereas anarchism refers to a voluntary self-governed society, and it's usually more of a political movement. We can look at examples of both throughout history, but even today there are places where there are simply no laws because it's either a contested area as far as government, or it's simply a no man's land where no government is really willing to support the region. We can see this in the western region of Afghanistan, where sections of the country are divided into different indigenous tribes. There are some areas that no tribe claims, and so those areas are essentially lawless. Occasionally, the Taliban has come in and claimed these areas, but the rebel rule of law is the code there. One of the many problems with Afghanistan is the fight for jurisdiction and leadership in a lot of these areas. Parts of Yemen and Mali are also considered lawless because of contested or unclaimed regions. Between Egypt and Sudan, there's a small part of the border called Bir Tawil that is unclaimed and uninhabited. It's considered a lawless area. One New Jersey man went there in 2014 to proclaim himself as the ruler just because he promised his daughter she could be a princess. I know you want to know more about that story, but I think I'm saving that one for its own episode. But most of these areas that I've discussed aren't areas where the citizens specifically set out to create a lawless society. Most of them don't have citizens at all. To look for an area where a lawless society was the goal, we have to look toward areas where social movements created that desire. One of these is known as Slab City in the middle of the desert of Southern California. It's a tiny off-the-grid alternative living community that inhabits an area that used to be a military facility. The people that live there don't want to conform to society. A lot of its residents come in campers and just stay for the winter, as many as 4,000 sometimes. but around 150 live there year-round. The state of California owns the land, and there are constant battles as to the future of the area. It doesn't collect taxes, but nearby police and fire authorities do provide service there. A similar place in Denmark is what we're going to talk about today, the free community of Christiania, a place where supposedly nothing is illegal. We'll talk about that after the break. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link. I've been traveling again lately, and that means I've been wearing my Scotty Vest jacket, which is awesome for anyone who sort of lives life on the go like I do. It's been awesome for traveling around because it's got tons of pockets for all my gadgets, my phone, my glasses, my wallet, my charging cord, you name it. It's a clothing company I believe in, and I'm confident they've got an article of clothing that you'll love. The best thing you can do is take a look at all the awesome pocket-packed clothing on their website. To get 15% off your order, visit the link in the show notes. Let's get back to the story. If you visited Christiania around Christmas time, you'd find it absolutely delightful. You'd wander through an indoor Christmas market and smell baked almonds and mulled wine and end up shopping for handmade items, maybe eat at one of the many street vendor stands. But Christiania didn't start as anything touristy. It actually started as an abandoned military base, similar to Slab City in California. It was originally an area that housed military barracks and the ramparts that protected the city of Copenhagen, Denmark. It was known as Christianshavn. It's right there in the southeast corner of Copenhagen. It's right downtown. When the military abandoned the buildings in the area, they left behind a small number of watchmen, but homeless citizens of Copenhagen started moving in and residing in the buildings. At one point in 1971, citizens that lived nearby tore down the military fencing and built a playground. Some claim that it was an act of defiance. See, Copenhagen was facing a lack of affordable housing at the time, and the government was just sitting on all this abandoned housing and land downtown. That same month that the fence was removed, a man named Jacob Ludvigsen, who was a journalist and sort of hippie activist, declared the area of Christiania to be free and open. It wasn't any sort of legal declaration. He just wrote it in his paper, the Hovedbladet. He wrote, "Christiania is the land of the settlers. It is the biggest opportunity so far to build up a society from scratch, while nevertheless still incorporating the remaining constructions. Own electricity plant, a bathhouse, a giant athletics building where all the seekers of peace could have their grand meditation and yoga center. Halls where theater groups can feel at home. Buildings for the stoners who are too paranoid and weak to participate in the race. Yes, for those who feel the beating of the pioneer heart, there can be no doubt as to the purpose of Christiania. It is the part of the city which has been kept secret to us, but no more." End quote. And with that, it just worked. Squatters, hippies, stoners, and artists started moving in, and the few military members that were there didn't stop them. It's worth noting that even the military members in Denmark in 1971 had long hair. They were part of the youth movement too. The free town of Christiania was born, an 84-acre community that even had its own mission statement: to create a self-governing society whereby each and every individual holds themselves responsible over the well-being of the entire community, to be economically self-sustaining. And they were. People started building their own homes and shops in the area. If they needed an electrician, they didn't call one. They either found another community member who could help, or learned how to wire electricity. If they had a dispute, they didn't call the police. They settled it themselves. The citizens of Christiania didn't rely and didn't recognize local authorities. They even created their own flag, a red flag with 3 yellow dots. Each dot represents one of the eyes in Christiania. It was a small experiment in socialism that grew to around 1,000 permanent residents at one point. One would think that this isn't sustainable, that an area free from the government would soon be overrun with the worst of society. And maybe in most parts of the world that would be true. But Danish people are different, and the experiment continues. Today, Christiania still exists. Its main feature for years has been the so-called Green Light District and Pusher Street, a street named for the drugs sold from street vendors, most popularly the open selling of hash, usually mixed strains of marijuana along with drinks and foods infused with cannabis. But over the last few years, crime has forced the open sale of any drugs in Christiania to stop. The people who live there won't put up with crime, so they forced all of these stalls to close. It's said that it's still pretty easy to buy marijuana in the area, but just not out in the open. Now, Christiania does have its own rules now. One of those is that the sale of hard drugs is forbidden. They also don't allow guns, knives, bulletproof vests, stealing, and the wearing of bikers' colors. Back in the mid-'80s, there were some gang wars between the Hells Angels and Copenhagen's biker club. Their name was just Bullshit. No, that's the name of the biker gang, Bullshit. It led to the murder of Bullshit's leader, who controlled the drug trade in Christiania at the time. They also don't allow running. No gang wars, no running. The idea of running to them means there's something to run away from. They don't approve of photography. There are no cars allowed, only bikes. It's a small, walkable area, and the self-governing seems to do pretty well. There are several notable buildings and institutions in the free area. One of them is Gay House, a location that houses over-the-top LGBT variety shows and is a home for gay activism. The area is alive with music and art. Jazz Clubbin' is a famous jazz club at the end of Pusher Street, and Woodstock, Christiania's oldest bar. There's also Copenhagen's oldest skate park, Alice in Wonderland, named after the Alice Skateboard Company. As far as the rights to the land, the citizens of Christiania are constantly being threatened by developers and government officials who want to capitalize on the property being so close to the capital city. In 1995, they came to an agreement with the Danish government to keep the land free as long as they began to pay taxes. So since '95, they pay the city for trash removal and access to water and electricity. Even so, conservative Danish politicians have been trying to shut down Christiania for years. In 2004, the government tried to eradicate the Free Society. In 2005, there was a murder on Pusher Street over weed sales, and it brought a lot of negative attention. In 2007, the city demolished a set of buildings in Christiania that were deemed unsafe. Young citizens defended the area, setting up roadblocks and shooting fireworks at police, but the buildings were demolished and 50 people went to jail. In 2016, there was another drug-related shooting on Pusher Street, and this was the time they made the decision to close down the stalls that openly sold marijuana. It's estimated that cannabis sales in Christiania dropped by 75%. Today, there are still around 700 permanent residents of Christiania. The region is still under constant threat of development. Here's community leader Niels Vest in a 2004 interview.
The way they want it to be is that you should pay the market value. And Christiania is totally opposed to market values. And I'm sure if you ask people in Denmark how many would live here, it's not only tens, it's hundreds of thousands of people who would love to live the way we live in Christiania.
More than 50 years after its founding, Christiania is still a community of artisans, artists, musicians, and people who just want to live in their own view of freedom. The crime rate is actually very low, but so is the crime rate of Copenhagen, about 1/25th the crime rate in America. Around 1 million people a year come to visit Christiania. They even have their own anthem. It's dramatic, and I'll leave you with it. The lyrics are, "You have thrashed us with batons, threatened us with weapons to escape the painful sounding of your own children shouting. You hide behind your helmets and empty laws and bills. Soon you'll see in anguish, it's yourself that you punish. You cannot kill us." Now it's time for the part of the podcast where I call a friend, and today I'm calling Marcus Monroe. Marcus is a comedian and juggler in New York City, and simply put, he's just one of the funniest people I know. It's good to see you again, man.
It's great to see you, man. It's been way too long. I was hoping to see you at one of the NACAs, but
yeah, I wasn't doing them, but now I will be doing them again.
I heard you got a new agent. Congrats on that.
Thanks,
That's a
man.
huge deal here with Diggy. It's amazing.
Yeah, Deggy's great. Ari and Jeff are fantastic. And
Jeff's great.
Yeah, they're great people. I really enjoy, I've always enjoyed, hanging out with them and stuff. And so I'm excited about it. It was obviously, everyone at Fresh Variety, we loved Laura. But it's on to newer things. So we're moving on and hopefully there's a little bit of business coming in. We'll see.
Ooh,
I'm not stressing out about it, but some stuff coming in.
You got some stuff cooking. I like it.
Yeah. Who are you through? Who's your agent?
Bass Schuler.
Bass Schuler. That's right. Yeah. See, I didn't approach Bass Schuler because they've got 23 magicians.
They do,
and they're all friends of mine. And Dan Martin
Daniel Martin.
they're gonna send Daniel Martin, before they send me, because they've had him forever. So yeah, I needed to find somewhere where I was gonna stand out. So anywho, I'm sure I'll see you soon. I'm sure I'll see you soon. So what's new in New York City? What are you up to these days?
Ooh, well, I've been traveling a lot, so I haven't really been in New York that as much as I'd like. I leave again tomorrow for 4 days, but when I'm in New York, it's been rainy and cold, and the homeless are out of control. But I mean, they've taken shelter in any train station they can find, and you just feel bad for them because it can't be easy. It's not easy living in an apartment in New York. I can't imagine being homeless here.
Right.
Doesn't seem like a good city to do that. But aside from that, the shows have been going great. I've been writing a lot of new material, which keeps me motivated, keeps me energized.
Now, I see you've got some blocks of material or something on the board behind you.
It's
some
true.
Green note cards. It looks like you're blocking out a new show or something, or?
This is actually just my stand-up set. So what I'll do is every joke of mine, I'll write down on a note card.
Okay.
I'll just show you. Let me show you.
And I'll describe for the podcast listeners what Marcus is doing. So there's a corkboard behind him, and on each card, he's got a little green note card, and on that I assume is a full joke.
Yes.
No,
so
just
I have the
for a joke.
Well, I have the name of the joke on this side. Then I wrote down the full joke on this side.
Okay.
Flashcards.
So
you can screen grab that and see what my joke is
and perform it tomorrow.
And perform it. And okay, but if you're looking I only have 12 on the bulletin board behind me. I just started doing this because I'm crafting a new hour and I need to write down all of my jokes I haven't started yet. I've started, but I haven't finished yet. And the goal is to have this all covered up in the order I want to do my jokes. And then I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
So I need to then figure out it's like a puzzle. Where should this joke go when?
Sure.
Some of them are bits. Some of them are 8-minute chunks. Some of them are just one-liners. So, this right here, what you see, my 2, 4, 6, these 12 jokes or whatnot, it's probably 30 minutes already just with this section. So I'm just trying to organize them the best way I can. Now, no one's taught me how to do this. No one told me, but get a bulletin board and, it looks like I'm trying to solve a true crime.
Yeah, you need some string. I have seen that done for sitcoms and stuff before. People will put different plot points, on a board that way. And I've never done that for my show, but I recently just did this, what you're doing, for a friend's show. He and I were sort of workshopping his show. It was a brand new show with a new theme and everything. And it really made the process go so much easier. And to visualize, we'll just flip these 2 cards and that puts a, exciting thing here and then a lull here and then whatever else. So that's cool, man. It's neat to pull
I'm
back the
excited
curtain.
to hear that. I'm happy to hear that you've done this too and that it worked for you, because I was there was part of me when I was doing this, I'm is this just a ginormous waste of time? Am I just trying to get myself into a project so I don't have to worry about other real issues that I need to focus on? But I think when this is done, it's going to be great. I hope.
Yeah. Make sure you're taking pictures of that board as you go too.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Because you'll be like, I had this perfect and then I messed it all up. Well, let's get into the podcast. So For this first question, we're going to play for a joke. And if you get this right, I'll tell you a joke. And if you get it wrong, you have to tell me one. Here is your question. The town of Christiania is a small region in the heart of Copenhagen, Denmark, that is notable for which of these reasons? A, since its founding in 1971, it only allows women. B, its 700 residents speak Pig Latin. Or C, it has existed since 1971 as an autonomous community separate from the Danish government.
Well, I'm going to say a town that only has women, nothing will get done because they'd just be gossiping all day.
That is horrible. We are.
What?
This podcast promotes and celebrates women and the very many things they bring to society.
They'd just be shopping, Michael, all day.
Women
Nothing
be shopping.
would get done.
No, stop. This is
the
not
grass
that type
would be
of
so
Marcus.
Tall.
Not only is this not that type of podcast, you're not that type of person. He is being a character right now.
Yes.
And if your wife was in the room, you would be not saying these things.
No, not at all. I went to a pro-choice rally yesterday.
Good.
I love the women. I am just making bad jokes. I don't know about Pig Latin because at some point you'd think, let's just talk. I'm gonna go C. I think C.
The answer is C. You are correct.
Right.
You were talking about the homeless people in New York City. Well, that's how this place, Christiania, got started, was that there was a military base that was abandoned in the heart of Copenhagen, and people who were homeless started using these. They became squatters, and it became a squatters village. It turned into a place for like a hippie commune. And it still exists today. It's over 50 years old. It's in the heart of, and it's like an artistic community for alternative lifestyle. And it's sort of like a small experiment in socialism in the heart of a very free city to begin with.
Wow.
And there have been fights for 50 years about, trying the government not liking what's happening, obviously.
Yeah.
So
fascinating stuff.
It's called the Free City of Christiania.
Do they have their own military?
They don't. They have 4 rules.
We solve all our problems, rock, paper, scissors.
That's pretty much probably what happens. Now, there have been a few crimes there. There have been a few shootings there, but mostly those shootings were related to the drug trade because it had a very healthy marijuana trade there. There's a street called Pusher Street where people would just basically set up street carts to sell pot. And that is currently, as of the last 7 years, they're not allowing that because there have been a few crimes, shootings and things that have happened because of arguments from the drug sales. But it's a pretty well known, it's like an open secret. You can go and buy weed there and pretty much anything goes. So and the cops will sort of just leave you alone there if you're just visiting.
How do you get there?
This is downtown Copenhagen. I owe you a joke. This is tell me a page number. It's 300 pages in here.
Okay, let's do 312.
312. I said 300 pages, and you're like, I want the back cover. We need needs to be less.
Okay, sorry. Let's do 216.
216. Let's find it. 216 is going to be a joke that's an eternal question. Okay. This is awful. This is really, really bad. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
To get Social Security, and then there's a parenthetical afterward. You don't get it? Well, neither did the chicken. She wasn't 65.
Wait, who wrote this joke?
This is Dixon's Joke Treasury, an anthology of gags, bits, puns, and jests by Paul Dixon. It's horrible.
But it's awful. I thought that you could make a joke why did the chicken cross the road? To get health insurance because it lives in United States and it wanted to go that seemed like that's where that joke was going.
Yeah, the road was on the border to a different nation. Yeah, something along these lines. Let's see. Why don't you ever see chickens in? Are these just all chicken? These are all chicken-based jokes. I picked
the wrong page.
I think you picked the chicken page. Why don't you ever see chickens in the zoo? Because they can't afford the admission. Oh,
that doesn't make any
no,
sense.
This is
I don't get. That's a terrible premise. There's no misdirect.
Put that
There
on
is
your
nothing
put
good.
that on your board behind you. Put that one up.
No, that's coming down.
This
That's
is
not-
written in copyright 1984. That's
It
not
doesn't
that long
matter.
ago.
It doesn't matter. They
Lots
had good
changed
jokes
since
in the
84.
80s, Michael. They had great jokes, and they had some of the best joke writers in the 80s.
I had
Come
I had a big question on my TikTok last week about an 80s comedian. And I didn't even know it was from an 80s comedian, but I had this song in my head. Da 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 da. Well, it turns out what was in my head was sort of a meme, and Family Guy had made fun of it when Jesus put on a magic show, and that's what he was singing. He was humming it while he was doing stuff like the one finger becomes two fingers and the two fingers becomes one, and then behind his back and all this stuff. And that was a ripoff of Art Metrano from the Gong Show in the 80s. I believe it was the Gong Show, maybe in the 70s. And Art Metrano, who was the original like sergeant on Police Academy, that guy, not the original one, the second one from Police Academy 2, the guy that gets his hands stuck to his head, that guy. That's Art Metrano. And he did that. Da, 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 da. It turns out the song is called Fine and Dandy, thanks to TikTok and Reddit. But I posted it to both because I knew that they would answer my question.
Isn't that unbelievable how you can just ask an app?
Yeah. So today I was working on this podcast, and earlier in the podcast, we heard a little bit of audio from a play I was in the second grade. Okay. And now I watched this. It's a 23-minute play. And there were two artists in residence that came in and worked with us. And I only know their first names, David and Leslie. That's all I knew. And I got on my phone and I started searching. 1987, Urbana, Ohio, artists in residence. I found their names. I sent a friend request to Leslie. David, I could not find.
No, you didn't.
I did. And I want to send her the video and say, listen, this play in the second grade was formative on my career. You know,
they came into your grade school
and they wrote a play with us.
They wrote a play with you guys.
Yeah.
You performed it, and then you found them, I'm going to say 20 years later.
More than that. I mean, I'm 43 and I was in the second grade.
Oh.
So we're talking like 35 years later, something like, I don't know.
I don't do math is not my forte.
It's a long time. And she looks the same, on her Facebook profile picture. But I just want to send her the message and the video and say, this was you in 1987. And this was the effect you had on a young Michael Kent who went on.
I would love to see this video of this young Michael Kent. Please send me the link.
I will show it to you. It's fantastic. It's a play.
I can't wait.
And the reason we brought it up is because this episode is about people wanting to live free and without rules. And that's what the play was about. We wanted a land without parents. And that's what happened in the play. It was basically, like I said, it was Home Alone without all the good parts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So you're 1 for 1. Let's move on. For this question, we're playing for an admission of something we do well. Rather than an admission of guilt, it's an admission of something we do well. So if you get it right, I'll tell you something I'm good at.
Okay. And if I get it wrong, I tell you something I'm good at?
You got it. Or you can tell me something I'm good at if you get it right. Either way.
Oh, okay. Maybe
I'll
do both.
I don't want that. I don't want that. That feels icky. A community simply called home was a utopian society that existed from 1895 to 1919. It was based on an anarchist philosophy. What country was it in? So this is an anarchist place called home around the turn of the century, 1895 to 1919. Was it in A, Sweden, B, the United States, or C, Bermuda?
Bermuda. Interesting. I'm not going to say the United States because I think that I may have heard of it then. Bermuda, I don't. I'm going to say Sweden.
The answer is the United States, Marcus.
No
way. Yes. Home was founded in the state of Washington in the United States. It was a community of anarchists, communists, free thinkers, and nudists. it eventually devolved into, like, they had divisions in the community, fighting factions known as nudes and prudes. And there's a good chance I will be putting this on the list of future episodes of this podcast because it sounds amazing. It's still there. It's still a city. It's not a big city.
It's still there?
Under 2,000 residents. Home, Washington.
Can you just get in can you get in the buff there?
I think that the what used to be home, the Utopian society, is long gone. It's now probably just a small town of rednecks in the middle of nowhere. But
I went to a nudist resort once, and so I'd be down.
I think you told us on the last podcast, didn't you go on accident, sort of, on your honeymoon? Was that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Amazing.
Whoops.
Amazing story.
Gotta read the fine print.
Go back to the last time Marcus was on. What episode did we talk about last time? Do you remember what we talked about last time you were on?
Oh, man.
I don't remember, but go find Marcus Monroe's last episode. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. And we talked about that a little bit.
I do. I also have that joke, the nudist story on my TikTok. If you feel like hopping over there,
and your
don't jump ship yet.
Your TikTok is at Marcus Monroe.
Yeah, something like that. I had to put a J in the middle because someone
Marcus
already
J.
took
Monroe.
Marcus Monroe. But,
got it. You'll find him. He's got enough followers that you type his name in, you'll find it. Yeah. Now let's move on. You're 1 for 2. For this question, we're playing for a coveted the internet.
Wait, I got to tell you what
I skipped. I'm so bad at this. Sometimes I just skip by the stakes. I want to hear an admission of something that you do well.
Well, I want to tell you something that you do well at. You are very good at giving magic and comedy a refreshing blend that's true to you, that you don't see a lot of people doing. You see a lot of people doing the same presentation of the same trick over and over. But what I love about you is that you put in the time, you put in the work, and you create your own piece that if someone else were to try and steal that piece from your show, they'd be like, that's a Michael Kent bit, because you have your own like take on your craft, which I appreciate. I think you're doing that very well.
That means a lot to me. It's always icky to hear, but it's funny because like
it's so gross.
In the moment to hear praise like that, it feels icky. But to like, I really do take that stuff to the heart, and so like 3-4 years from now, I will think back to those words because I do that all the time. I remember stuff that people tell me, and while it was I didn't accept it at the moment, it really does fuel me. So. Go compliment people. That's why you compliment people.
I also really enjoy your style because you're more laid back than you are like magic-y, which is a little cringy at times, especially now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're still a performer and you still have a good presentation. But like, you're in like a jean jacket, like. But
that's only because in terms of presentation, I peaked in the 2nd grade during my play in my 2nd grade class. I'm just over it, is why. All right, I want to hear what you do well. Tell me what you do well.
I procrastinate very well.
That is not. That's one of those things like, what would you say are your weaknesses? Well, I care too much.
What do I do well?
You have to tell me something that you really. Procrastination can be a positive attribute, but it's usually not, right? It's usually associated with negative.
I'm fairly good at running.
Running?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a runner.
I'm not, but I did my first half marathon like 2 months ago, and I got bit by the bug. I enjoy it.
That's really exciting. You're a slender guy.
I ran my fastest mile today.
Today? Congratulations.
6 minutes, 36 seconds.
Oh my God. I don't think I can do anything in 6 minutes, 36 seconds. Takes me that long to put my shoes on. That's pretty great, man. I didn't know you were a runner. I do. I can see myself becoming a runner because what I do is like I get into these hobbies and then I just go overboard with them and I just don't stop. Kind of where I'm at with birding right now. I'm like an avid birder.
So I'm also really good at editing people's TikToks, and I run a few TikTok accounts for other people. And one of the guys I run, his name is Joe Zimmerman, and he's also a birder, and he has great stand-up about being a birder. So if you're ever into birder comedy,
I am into bird comedy.
Check out Joe Zimmerman.
This feels like Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm bird law. I'm into. I practice bird law. I have a very specific niche of comedy, just bird-based comedy. if the comedy doesn't have enough ornitharian content, it's not for me.
But your photos are also incredible.
Thanks, man. I really enjoy it. All right,
Yeah,
let's move on.
All right.
Question 3. For this question, we are playing for a coveted, the internet says it's true, sticker. These are very hard to come by and extremely valuable. They are just the show logo. Now, here's your question. The Danish have no translation word for which one of these English words? A, milk, B, fire, or C, please?
I'm going to say please.
Why?
Because milk and fire seem like things that the Danish would be about, but please might just be a word they don't use. Maybe it's already built in to their vocabulary.
Interesting. Well,
I don't know. I'm pretty dumb.
You are correct. It is please.
Oh, yes!
Yeah, kind of. The idea is this: the Danish they're polite by default, right? So they don't need to.
That's what I was
There is
thinking.
no specific word in Danish that literally translates the word please. Instead, the Danes use phrases and gestures to be polite. So I'm going to try to say some of these because I don't know how to speak Dutch, or Danish, such as "Vær så venlig," which means "be so kind," and "This du vil være så sød." I'm going to get someone to write in and tell me how about that means if you would be so sweet. So there's a lot of thanking going on in Denmark. It's considered polite to say thank you for everything from your dinner to like both before, during, and after a social get together. You just say thank you all the time, so you don't need to say please because you've got the thank you.
Dang. All right. I like that. See,
Yeah.
I like the Danish people. It's funny that Americans have to have a word to be polite. Like it should, yeah. Come on, guys. Just be nice.
Just be nice people. We don't need a word for this. You get a sticker.
That's right.
Which is exciting.
Yay!
And-
Thank you. Well, do you mail that? Do you email that to me?
I'm going to email you the sticker. Provide your own adhesive.
Okay.
I'll fax it to you.
Deal. Yeah, fax it to me. Deal.
Yes. In theory, I will be mailing you this sticker via the U.S. Post.
In theory, no. I'm holding you to this.
Please do, because I'm very bad at mailing them out after people win them, and I've got this many left, which is not a ton. I've probably got 15 left. But I found another packet of these, which is the original name for this podcast, says "Tell me what to Google." So I've got a lot of those. So maybe I'll send you one of each. And anyone who joins Patreon gets one too. So that's exciting.
Hey, there you go.
You're 2 for 3. And for this question, if you get it wrong, you have to tell us about one of your favorite memories from the stage.
Oh, okay.
If you get it right, I'll tell you about one of my favorite memories from the stage.
All right.
Which one of these structures is still present from when Christiania was owned by the military? One of these is still there. There are probably multiple structures that are still there, but only one of these 3 is real. A large anti-aircraft gun now permanently built into a rooftop. B, a slab of concrete with a drain for blood from when they used to do executions. Or C, a water tower now being used to provide shower water for Christiania's citizens.
Those are all.
It's either a gun in the roof, concrete slab for blood, for drain for blood, or water tower for showers.
I'm going to say A, the first one.
Any reason why?
Wait, which one did I pick?
The anti-aircraft gun built into a rooftop.
It seemed like the drain for blood would be, I could see that being a thing as well, but it just seemed like there probably weren't too many executions that they'd have their own drain for blood, maybe. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And the water tower that's now used for showering, when you first told me it, I pictured just like a group shower that like they just poke holes and they'd have water coming down and people would just like shower. But now that I'm thinking about it, there's probably piping. But I'm still gonna go with A.
The answer is B, a slab of concrete with a drain for blood from when they used to do executions. And this was, now I saw differing accounts of this, but Wikipedia says that it was the last Danish execution site and was still active in 1950. It can still be seen on the second fortification close to the building called Air Condition. There's just a building called Air Condition. I guess it's the one that has it. The wooden execution shed is gone, but the concrete foundation and a drain for the blood remain next to the path. Apparently 30 World War II criminals were executed there, and the last was Birkdahl, a high-level Danish Gestapo collaborator, and that was July 20th, 1950. And
wow,
yeah,
not too long ago.
They had a shed,
How
an execution shed at one point.
So okay, this is going to get a little sick and twisted, but were they executing these people that they would bleed out?
It's a great question. My guess is firing squad, just based on the fact that it was post World War II, and these were war criminals. I'm guessing that's what was done, because if they were hanged, that's not a bloody thing,
right?
I'm not really sure what the shed would be for, but
a firing squad. I think that probably takes the heat off the executioner, because you don't know which bullet was the one that killed the person.
Right.
Is that why they chose that?
I really don't know, but there is one state that it has just brought the firing squad back in South Carolina. So
cool.
Now
going there tomorrow.
It's 2022. If your show sucks tomorrow in South Carolina, be careful, because they've just brought back the firing squad as an option. The person being executed can choose that rather than lethal injection.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice.
That's okay if that's a choice. If that's how you want to go.
Yeah.
Terrible, but
honestly, I'm not for the death penalty, but if you're going to be executed, I think like that, while it's definitely barbaric, the so-called humane methods that we see used are more barbaric, because they don't work and they fail all the time. Especially here in Ohio, we've had several where there have been like court cases because they clearly weren't done right and it took too long, and that's like torture. That's horrible. So
yeah, no bueno.
Yeah, I didn't mean this podcast to be about execution, but we got there because of this one macabre thing in Christiania, an otherwise utopian society.
So now you tell me a happy moment of you on stage, or I tell you one.
You tell me one, but I'm happy to tell you one too.
I would love to. Okay, I'll tell you one, then you tell me one.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, a happy moment of me on stage. Is that what it is?
Yeah, just a favorite memory from the stage, basically.
Oh, favorite memory.
Doesn't have to be happy if it's favorite.
Oh man, well, this is tough. It's hard to select like a moment and say, oh, I usually have a good time no matter what I'm doing on stage. But recently I had my friend Ben Seidman was in New York, and I was booked at the Comedy Cellar. And before I was doing stand-up, he and I would always go to the Comedy Cellar together and watch comedy. And we never thought, one day we would be performing here. But I had a show, and he came and he saw me at the Comedy Cellar do stand-up.
Wow.
And it was just great, because it was just like, this is very special for us, because he's, he gets to see me at, on this famous venue doing something completely different.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And both of you have excelled in show business since those days of dreaming of being on a stage. So
yeah,
pretty fantastic.
It's
Ben's a wonderful magician. So I'll tell you one of mine. It just happened maybe 5 years ago. There's one particular club here in town that I used to perform at a lot. And so when I would do a show there, a lot of the same people would come back. But I used to open this sketch comedy and rock and roll show with my version of the Multiplying Bottles. And it was just a very high energy way to open a show, which was a lot of fun. A lot of call and response in it and things. Well, I was performing my full length show, and as I pulled out the bottles and put them on the stage, the audience began to cheer and applaud. And it was kind of like when the band plays those first few chords of that hit song, and there's that applause of recognition. And I carry that with me, like every time I bring out those bottles and put them on the table, I think about that. That was just like one of those memories that really sticks with me, because I felt so appreciated, because it was like, they know what I'm about to do and they like it. So it takes so much pressure off of what I'm about to say. It must be like what Jim Gaffigan does when he says Hot Pockets and the audience erupts.
Yeah, like, I don't know if he does that bit anymore, but I think you're right.
Don't you think he has to? If he's touring a theater, don't you think he has to he could do an hour and a half of new material, but he still has to do the 3-minute Hot Pocket thing, right?
Yeah, or like when Bert Kreschner, I can't ever say his last name, takes his shirt off.
Yeah, he has to do the machine. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah, he has to do the machine, and it's one of those things where people like ask for a refund if you don't do it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. Some comedians don't do their old material, but when I saw the Stones' very first song, Keith Richards comes out to the front of the stage and start and I feel like you'd play that song so many times it would make you physically ill. But he just loves it. I feel like I talk about this a lot. We might have even talked about this last week on the show, or a couple weeks ago on the show. It just would make me violently like nauseous to do something that many times. But that feeling of recognition from the crowd is probably what keeps it fresh and what keeps it feeling real.
But don't you do something that many times? Like my show, there's always like I bring out the hits all the time.
Sure.
I still do them.
I do. I mean, my show doesn't change that much. I change lines and things. I do things to keep it fresh. I'll change music. I'll change cues. Sometimes I'll throw a joke in or take a joke out, or I'll do something as simple as like switch I'll mirror image the set. So like instead of having the volunteer on this side, I'll do the volunteer on this side and try it that way.
Sure.
And it makes a big difference. It feels, and it makes me have to keep on my feet and things like that. I'll do all kinds of stuff to try to trick myself, but that's not Jim Gaffigan level. That's not Rolling Stones level. You're not doing it that much. I've been performing for like 18 years, not 43 or however long they've been, however long they've been performing. So
I love it.
Anywho, that's
great memory.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Same with yours. Now, here's question 4. Oh no, we did question 4. Let's what was the stakes for that one? Oh, we did him. My gosh, I'm so behind. Man, you're killing it. You're 2 for 4 right now. That's not really killing it. That's not killing. You're batting 500. That's not really it. Well, this is the one that makes the difference. This tips the scale in your direction or my direction, and it's for all the marbles. So the rule is if you get this one wrong, you're banned from this program. You will never be asked on again. If you get it right, I'll have you on any time that you are able. Here's your question, Marcus. This is an open-ended question. Where do you, Marcus Monroe, find artistic inspiration?
Interesting. I hope I don't get this wrong. Well, lately, I've been trying to think about myself and my past and what triggers me in a way. And when I'm having a bad day and when I'm really angry, I feel that's the best time for me to sit down and do some writing, because I feel like I'm the most honest with myself when I'm a little depressed. When I'm a little down in the dumps, I'm able to see things differently than when I'm just like happy-go-lucky, everything's cool. My mind's a little different. And I don't mind, I think when you're on stage telling jokes, honesty and vulnerability and self-awareness are the 3 things that are the most important. And the audience can tell if you're being honest, if you're self-aware, and the other third thing I forgot. But
the third thing was memory.
It probably should be. So I've been finding a lot of artistic pleasure in exploring writing when I find myself in different emotions. And I could be writing about the same topic. One day I'm very happy, everything's going my way. I'm getting booked everywhere. I am getting retweeted. I got a killer video on TikTok. I'm in a good mood. My wife's happy. She's hot. We just kissed. Everything's good. I'm writing down. Or the next day she could be out of town. No one's taking my calls. The show just got canceled. I have nothing to do today. And I'm writing on the same topic. And those 2 perspectives are, even though it's the same topic in my life, it's just different. I find different things to pick at and to write down. For instance, I was. Can I give you an example?
Yes, please.
I wanted to talk about my comedy juggling career. And there was this joke where I was talking about, I juggled for 20 years, and people are always like, oh, what did your family think? And when you say like the traditional joke is like, yeah, like, how do you think my family feels? Like, this is what I'm doing for my life. Like, that's the traditional joke.
Yeah.
I was in a real like sad place. I don't know why I thought of this, but I tell the audience I was a professional juggler for 20 years, and they're like, well, what does your family think? I'm like, what does my family think? They're the ones telling me to do it. Like, they're just as like, they need to be held accountable for this. Like, 10 years in, I was like, this is becoming my identity. No one's gonna stop this. So like I was just able to like flip that around and place blame on them.
I love it.
For it's just a different take. And I don't think I would have, I know it seems, if you're listening, it might just seem like an easy fix, just flip it. But for me, I just needed to be in that little
truthful, darker
place
but it's a more honest thing, especially if you did have a family that was supportive, like a lot of people did. And it's supposed to be not cool to own up to doing what we do. And there's like, so you have to acknowledge that elephant in the room. Marcus, that is a right answer. And so you went 3 for 5. Tipping the scales in your favor. You will be asked on again.
Just barely.
And I always love having you on. Marcus's TikTok is Marcus J. Monroe. And go follow him there because he puts a lot of great content on. But you can also see him perform. If you go to marcusmonroe.com, you can learn how to see him perform, how to book him to perform at your, like, whatever, your wedding. He does a lot of weddings this time of year.
Yeah, I do. I'm the wedding guy. They call me the wedding guy.
Yeah, a lot of wedding comedy jugglers, and and so it's a very competitive field. But Marcus slays it every Saturday. So
and some Sundays for the poor people who can't afford it on a Saturday. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do, dude? It's so good to see you and so good to catch up.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and I hope it was as fun for me as it was for you.
Well, that's all for this week. Thanks to Mike for the topic and to Marcus Monroe for being my guest. Here's a young Danish kid who learned English just to read the following.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. Don't forget to join up on Patreon if you want to see the unedited video of the guest appearance or to hear bonus episodes. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. Also, if you learned something that you didn't already know from the show, please visit iTunes and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That's the rule. You gotta do it. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works, to get the podcast suggested to more people. And that way we can keep learning something new, if the internet says it's true.
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make the show possible. Sean Brown, Catherine Morgan, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Matt McVeigh, Jim Martin, Joanne Martin, and the show's official Emperor Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and additional music this week was from Kevin MacLeod. All audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.